Helldivers 2 is actually phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just kind of out of nowhere, going to talk a lot about various things in regards to the game's marketing, i.e. there was none of it. And Sony finally put codes out on launch day, obviously the release day. The release time over in the UK was 10 in the morning yesterday at the time we're recording this. But yeah, thanks to Sony themselves sending over some codes. For myself and Josh Brown, you bought your way in.
Played
it a little bit more than us.
Well, I thought that, I didn't think a code was on the table, because we usually hear about these things, a few weeks in advance. But I'm more than 30. It's very rare that I get the opportunity to spend £35 on a brand new game. And from what I've played so far, I'm fully down for it. I was kind of really sold beforehand on the really irreverent kind of Starship Troopers-esque pulp sci-fi tone that it was going for. And we played a few hours of it yesterday, and it is one of those games you're like, I love a few games of Helldivers, and you look at the time, it's like, oh, it's past midnight. Good.
I feel like we finished work at about 5 o'clock yesterday, and then I remember you were already online by the time I got on, and then I feel like I logged back on at like midnight, and you were still going, and I dove back into the game.
I had made dinner. I had done the life things that I had to, but it was great because when I came on after work, you were in a mission. So I was like, I'll just join Scott. And then I dived in as you were being chased by hordes of things, and I saved your life. I didn't get that footage, annoyingly.
Right.
But the big missions that we did later on, where we were hunting down a Bile Titan.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The thing with this game is I want to point out some specific stuff. There's some obviously specific things to talk about. We'll address the performance issues over on Steam. There's some monetization stuff here that was a bit surprising to see personally, in regards to the fact that they are charging £35 to get in, but then they do have the monetizable elements as well, the microtransactions. But I do want to talk about the game's positives, because at least to us right now as we're recording this, they far outweigh the negatives, and that's after about 6-7 hours of gameplay so far. But the gameplay stuff, if you're not sure what Helldivers is, like, you are playing as a Helldiver, you're diving onto planets, it's full of bugs, there are some planets that have various android armies on there as well. You're using these things called stratagems, which are ostensibly fighting game directional input combos to do special attacks.
It's just so fun, because you're just there going,
yeah.
Beep, 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 and it's, oh man, I love it.
And it's like, even when you need to extract, you need to punch in like 8 directions in once to finally summon the thing to get you out. But the reason that this thing does really, really well is that I think it taps into that sort of gameplay sandbox element that loads of modern games, loads of AAA games especially, don't have, where I find that so many games of a certain production level make you stand in this thing, see this cutscene, see this set piece from a specific thing, do the quick time event, do this thing, and it's always refreshing when you get a game that just goes, here's a bunch of gameplay mechanics, and here's a set of physics and some enemies and whatever, and we've designed the AI, we've designed the various things that you're doing when you're on the planets to come up with these sort of dynamic cinematic scenarios where you're making a last-ditch effort to escape at the last minute and things like that. And we'll talk about more of them, but that was what stuck out to me, was like how well balanced it all is.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that I come to multiplayer games for now, is getting those little meta narratives going, where it's like you have those, if you were talking about it, the franchise that has most managed to convey that idea in a marketable catchphrase is Battlefield. When you think of stuff like Battlefield moments, where you have like a guy like jumping out of a jet, pulling out a rocket launcher, destroying a jet that's chasing him, and then getting back in his plane. Those are unique, epic things. But I love it's much more fun for me being a little cog in a machine and being weak and not being that powerful, but then also being able to get more powerful, and just the stupid kind of stories that happens. The thing that I love about this is that before Helldivers 2 came out, I believe the developers Arrowhead Games are talking about how it's got influence from Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, okay.
And you kind of can feel that in terms of the little stories that you get, the creative ways you can try and outthink certain solutions, and the ways that an easy mission could then become a really, really hard mission out of nowhere, or you just drop in and instantly die. And it's that in itself is really funny. Yeah,
one thing I want to shout out is that there's a tactical side to this, and I think there's a whole. We'll talk about the marketing, because they've barely marketed this, and I'm curious how intentional that was. Whether it really sings when you finally get control of it, when you actually you're in the explorative phase of the mission, you're stumbling upon bug nests, and the music's phenomenal.
They sucked his brains out.
The game's like secret weapon is the music. It's very much like it's like Predator, like in the early goings of
old
that
school
movie.
James Horner, Alan Silvestri type vibes. Yeah,
and it's like they nailed that stuff. But I think there's a tactical side to it that is associated with it when people talk about Helldivers. Like, oh, maybe it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too much of a tactical shooter. And I do want to mention, like, you have really restricted clip sizes. You go down in like 2 or 3 hits if the bugs swarm you.
Manually reload. If you reload too early, you lose your ammo.
Yeah. And it's like there's a thing where it'll show you like 2 reticles on the screen. One where you're aiming straight down the middle of the screen, and one where the bullets are actually going to go, and you need to stop and be crouched, maybe go prone to nail those shots. And like you're trying to do that in the middle of all these sort of.
And there's the recoilless rifle as well, where someone can call them that stratagem, and it's like an anti-tank rifle. So one person gets the cannon, and the other person has the ammo. So you basically need to get two people on that thing to make it work. And I love that kind of that's the kind of co-op that I want for. And I don't want to belabor the point on how much we didn't like Suicide Squad the other week, but whereas that game is like you just happen to have 4 people in a sandbox shooting at things and getting powerful. Here it's like, no, I need you to help me put the rocket in the gun, or we're all going to get melted by this big bug. And that is inherently funny and stressful and just really rewarding when you actually manage to overcome those odds.
Yeah, and also like, because the maps are procedurally generated and they do favor quite like heightened topography, like there's a lot of peaks and valleys and stuff, but then there was a great bit where like you and your mate or you and your cousin were like on like a cliff edge.
Shout out to Mikey.
Yeah, shout out to Mikey. And you were on this cliff edge, and I think he was shooting or you were shooting, but you became a team of 2, and then you were just raining down on everything that was around you. And it's like that could have been in any other game a really specifically framed cinematic moment. And it's bolstered by the fact that it is running on PS5 and it does run very well. I want to talk about some of the performance stuff in regards to like texture pop and things like that, but the guts of it, the gameplay of it is immediately bang on, and it is all very immediate anyway. Like there's a tutorial they make you do, but we got into those missions within like 10 minutes or something, and then that is kind of the game's overall structure. It's very Destiny, where you're sort of your ship is the loading screen. It's all very, very fast, and you're sort of beaming into different people's spaces, I guess, in regards to where your ship parks next to theirs, and then you go on the missions.
And then
together.
you have the whole community aspect as well, because you can see on each planet that you're trying to liberate how many other Helldivers have and what percentage of the planet has been liberated. So you're all working towards those community goals, which, not really immediate. You don't really feel the pressure of it, but it's also kind of fun to think, oh, we're all in this together. And I think when you join in with your friends, you really do get that vibe of, we're all part. So the community aspect, again, when we get onto how this game will perform as a live service title, I think that's going to be an integral part of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like there's I think that was the first thing I did, was look at the overall galaxy map, and there was an area that was like 0.01% had been taken back.
I'm gonna go there.
And I was like, I'm literally gonna go there, because I was like, what's there? And what was there was like an android army, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna fight them. But yeah, it's just worth shouting out that, at least to me, the balancing of, like I said, the pockets of AI, the way that AI works, where you can go through hordes of enemies, but some of them are stronger. You mentioned a Bile Titan before, which is so far one of the most iconic enemies in there, in regards to the original Helldivers, and just this giant walking, 4-legged thing that can just stand on you.
Gross bug that melted my face off multiple times. Yeah,
and it's like they'll just pop up. There's a very Gears of War feel to this. It reminds me of Gears of War's Horde mode, which is like, I have such fond memories of doing all 50 waves in Gears 2, and then obviously they bolted out in Gears 3 and 4 and 5. But still, like that idea of it's just you against the world, you against the waves, and they have the Gears of War thing in here of throw a grenade down a hole to plug it up, which is very, very Gears.
And we had some great cinematic moments yesterday,
dude, yeah.
like the shot that you were talking about earlier on, where we went to a bug nest and we both threw in our grenades at the same time and walked away as the explosion came behind. You had a great moment where you killed the Bile Titan with a
drop,
with a reinforcement drop.
Yeah.
The last stand that we had on the cliff, where we were trying to wait for the extraction, and then you got knocked off, and I screamed no, and then I was trying to throw the napalm down, and everything was. It's one of the best. The testament to this game is that I lose focus talking about how many cool things I experienced playing it yesterday. Those little kind of unique individual experiences, that's what makes this so fun and special to me. And again, like, it roped me in beforehand, before launch, with the irreverent kind of Starship Troopers tone. But I never expected it to be as random. Each encounter, each thing just feels fresh. Even though procedurally generated, you could look at the environments and say they feel a little bit repetitive. But the objectives are so varied, and they throw enough at you each time to keep you on your toes that I'm constantly entertained.
Yeah, actually, we'll say as well that, like, it does have, to me at least, like a quasi-open world feel. Like, you're dropping into a space that's quite sizable, and then you have your main missions to do, whether it's like sabotage a certain facility, kill certain amounts of enemies, survive for a certain amount of time, and then you can run off and do little side missions, which get you more currency, which unlocks more stuff, and gets you more XP and everything. But that whole feeling of, like, how much do you want to take on before extracting? Like, if you run out of respawns and you die, you lose everything.
If you get the gamble wrong, it can really, really hurt you. So yesterday I've done missions where I've done everything and I managed to complete the mission and extracted. I've also had ones where we failed the mission because we're out of time but managed to extract. And then also done those where we managed to beat the mission but failed to extract. So there's different variants to it as well. Obviously, it affects how much resource you take away at the end of it all. But yeah, no, it's one of those where it's like each encounter feels unique enough to keep you going. And obviously, there's going to be like different planets that we haven't even gone to yet. I'm sure they're going to be adding in more as it goes forward. So yeah.
I do want to say as well that I feel like it's obviously fundamentally a co-op game. Like even if you're playing solo, they'll matchmake you with others. You might be able to turn that off. But when I did a few solo missions, it just put me with 3 other randoms, and that worked well enough. Like there are enough ways that the game forces you to interact in regards to the weapon stuff, like you said. And you can have open mic chat, like you can have that stuff. And you know, you're encouraged to sort of like stick with each other, make map markers. Like it could do with a better ping system, like what Apex Legends has and Fortnite now has.
Yes.
To be able to tell everybody, hey, there's a bug nest popping off at my feet and I need help or whatever. But still, for the people who are curious, can they play single player? You can, but it'll put you with
You're
randoms.
gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
You can go solo. To request a random player join you, I think you have to send out like an SOS beacon or something.
That's one of the stratagems as well.
Or maybe that like, you know, that makes you a more priority search. But certainly, yeah, you want to experience this with friends.
Yeah, I would
definitely.
say so.
It like you say, it recalls those vibes of like late night Gears of War Horde, Halo ODST firefight. Those kinds of you're up against the odds. You see how far you can get, and even when you die, like it's still kind of cinematic enough where you're kind of like, oh. Because when we were on that last mission last night for what, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Yeah. When we got to the end, there was a very, very slim chance that we might not have been able to make it out of there. So the win was that much sweeter.
Yeah, it's and those clinch moments are what make it. Like we ended up coming out of last night's like big long run with like 3 or 4 big like, oh my god, that just
I nearly had
moments.
a nosebleed.
And it's like that was great though. And then like, yeah, you can obviously, it's a simple thing to say, but like obviously in new consoles, you just immediately take a little video of that, some screen grabs, and say, oh my god, that thing was awesome. Stuff that we didn't have when we played through like Gears 2 Horde mode or Gears 3. And it's worth pointing those things out. But yeah, I would say it's obviously better as multiplayer. You mentioned that thing about like what they have right now, and this is in the middle of the conversation on what Sony are doing with live services, because it's launched right alongside Foam Stars, and Foam Stars is on PS Plus, and you know you can just play that. It's not this as a $35 entry fee. This should have been on PS Plus.
I agree so
like, by
much.
Far.
It's like, well, again, like I'm fine that I spent the money on it because I'm having a great time, and I want to support the studio as well, because I think from what I've read, people who are familiar with the first Helldivers, Arrowhead, are like really, really good, very community driven, community focused, which is good. The fact that Foam Stars is on PS Plus and not Helldivers 2 just makes me think, oh, Sony looked at the most. We know that Splatoon's done well, so we'll put the Splatoon-esque game in front of as many eyeballs as possible, and maybe they've looked at Helldivers, and this isn't to say that, you know, they haven't given it its full backing or confidence or whatever, although we have mentioned that the marketing was a little bit slim comparatively to other stuff that Sony's been hyping up. It just makes me frustrated because Helldivers 2 is the more unique live service title here. Totally. If this is what you want, this is what I want a live service game to be. It's like you can have it in digestible chunks. You can put in as much of it as you want to. And again, like the £35 entry point, like that is still markedly lower than what we've come to expect from AAA games and stuff. And I'm just curious to see how that goes forward.
Honestly, the monetization side of it, in a direct comparison to Foam Stars microtransactions are ludicrous. They're like £45, $45. Like there are skin sets that are stupidly overpriced. That game was marketed a lot, and obviously you can argue it's because it's Square Enix and that was potentially their meal ticket to have a live service, and it's a Splatoon on other consoles. If you take the idea of a Nintendo property on other consoles, look at Power World and how much that blew up. They wouldn't have foreseen that months back, but still, Foam Stars had the potential to go huge, and they've monetized the living F out of it. To address the monetization in Helldivers 2, there are microtransactions in it, but you can grind out the medals you unlock anyway in the regular missions for premium currency, and that exchange rate is actually pretty good.
Yeah, so you unlock medals at the end of each mission, depending on how many objectives you complete and whether you extract, depends on how many medals you get. You have a normal war bond, it's called war bonds. There's a normal war bond and then there's the premium war bond pass, which you need the premium currency to unlock. That's going to change seasonally, I imagine. But yeah, no, you unlock with the different medals. And to be fair, the stuff that's there, I can see, like, I saw this game being accused of being pay to win yesterday, which really confused me. I feel like, obviously, call that stuff out when it's there. But most of the things that you unlock in this game, aside from cosmetics, like you can unlock guns quite easily, and no one gun over excels at something compared to the other in terms of what playstyle you favor. To me, it didn't really feel that insidious on my end.
No, I think to address that head on, like you could, if you wanted to, go into the storefront and just buy the premium currency and then go in the War Bond premium tier and just buy one of the rocket launchers or something like that. They are available straight away. So you could argue that that's pay to win.
I didn't see that available straight away in the premium.
There's a big orange one.
Oh, there's a big on
the top right.
Oh, of course. Right. No, there's the explosive assault rifle or something.
Something like that.
Well.
It's like some high-end weapon.
But for me, it's like one of those where I'm like, I'm not seeing... these are all things that I expect to be included at some point anyway. There's enough variations of stuff in here that it doesn't frustrate me as much.
But also, it's not a PvP game. Like you're paying to win against the enemy hordes. Like you'll grind up.
Everyone's
faster.
still just as squishy as each other. Yeah. You can get heavier armor sets, but that comes at the expense of mobility, so you won't be able to outrun things as fast. So for me, it's all finely balanced. And this is the reality of game dev at the minute, is that they need to make their money somehow.
Yeah.
And you could argue that it's not fair for it to have a £35 entry point and then to have this premium currency and stuff on top of it. But to me, it's like, well, we were happy with DLC when games cost 40 quid like 10 years ago as well, and this doesn't feel as instrumental to the experience as has been made out over the, justifiably frustrating launch concerns that happened yesterday for players on PC, not being able to matchmake or whatever. But again, like from the way that Arrowhead have gotten ahead of that and have basically said, no, we are working on this, we're going to improve it, it doesn't cause concern for me.
I think, my stance on it is that I don't think you should have an entry fee price if you then have a free-to-play framework. But I do think that if you're going to have to do that in the modern world, or you want to see how it works in regards to Sony's wider push for live services, the monetization side of it and the actual amounts they're asking you to pay are fundamentally optional anyway, because you can trade your medals in for premium currency, although to a point, because it's per page of the regular War Bond screen. So you could argue that at some point you're not going to get enough premium currency and you'd be pushed towards microtransactions. That'll be in regards to how they balance it over time. So I'm not massively... I was just... To me, this screams like it should have been on PlayStation Plus, or it should have been free to play. Just get it in front of people if you're going to monetize them anyway. And so I personally would have preferred that. But yeah, it's all going to come down to each person's individual feel. Obviously, millions of us are comfortable with microtransactions. I'm just not as a general thing. But it's not to say I've never done them. I got Pokeballs in Pokemon Go because I needed some more back in 2016. But I still think that, it's obviously a reality of the industry. And as far as those things go, like I said, I made a direct comparison to Foam Stars. If you're going to have microtransactions in the game, don't rip our eyes out with them. Yes. And so far, this seems to be playing it pretty straight. To address performance stuff, like I said before, the gameplay side of it, the guts of it, plays really well. Frame rate's super solid. I don't know about you, but I didn't have a single dip or anything. The thing that seems to be being sacrificed in regards to maintaining server speed is the textures.
So I did look online about this yesterday. I was just browsing the Helldivers Reddit, and there was a really good post on there that was talking about how to clean up the graphics side of things. I think if you turn on anti-aliasing and you switch off the depth of field, which is causing some of the texture popping issue, because the way the focus works is that it's pulling stuff that's further away. I think the camera just gets a little bit confused. If you switch that off, turn up the sharpness a little bit, it looks way more crisp to me. Although I do agree that maybe something has been sacrificed in between what was shown previously and what it is now. But again, like, it's still really super atmospheric. The lighting looks great. When you've gone through a bug horde up close and personal with a shotgun, and your cape is just sludgy and matted from like bug. I meant to say bug blood. I said slug. Blood. That all looks great to me.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the lighting side of it, the atmosphere with the music in the background, the explorative side of the missions, and then the full combat. The fact that like a drum beat kind of comes in as you're fighting towards the end of a mission. Like I said, it's dynamic, but like it works, and you're in different parts of those mission stages.
Like the Predator and Alien comparisons are so apt, because it's like you land in, and sometimes it'll be like a slow burn mystery. It's like we've got to find the objective, but everything's really quiet, and you maybe just hear bug noises.
You got a motion tracker as well.
There are some biome things. There's a mushroom that we found yesterday that emitted spores into the atmosphere, so you couldn't see in front of you. There's all sorts of different things that mess with the atmosphere and the pace of gameplay, and I feel like that is all done really well. In terms of concerns that I definitely agree with you on, though, currently, the customization features are a little bit too rigid. I feel like if I'm going to be able to create my own Helldiver the way I want to kind of have like a Halo armor system where I can go into and change individual bits of pieces of the armor itself. Because right now you have the main suit that you can change, and the helmet, and I feel like, and the cape as well. So I would maybe like to have different, just little itty bitty things that I could maybe just to customize it to the most minute detail. But that's me being like a a stickler for this.
No,
sort of stuff.
I mean, you've got the wider framework of the monetization side of it. You've got the different war bonds, the different premium tiers and stuff. It is worth saying that the edition that Sony thankfully sent across to myself and Josh was the deluxe one, which did come with a fancy helmet and a fancy set of armor, which notably stood out. Like when we were comparing our soldiers, it was like, oh man, like this dude, like the deluxe version has like a winged helmet. It looks like a Warhammer Space Marine.
Just looked like a guy whose father had been a Helldiver, and I was just like the veteran grunt with no limbs, being like, yeah, okay,
yeah.
You got the shiny bling, you got some ropes. Okay, well,
that's the thing, right? And I think that's going to be something that, like, obviously individual people can decide. Like, you know, whether you like. To me, there's an immediate visual disparity between the person who is just coming in and the person who forked out the extra. It's like extra £30 or whatever. £15 for the deluxe version. That is very immediate and very obvious. And because you can't customize your armor color or like things like that, then the notable way of differentiating is the extra shapes, the extra bling on the armor set.
So maybe that,
and that only comes with deluxe.
Maybe that has been a consideration in terms of how to limit the customization. Then
maybe, and it's like I guess you know they want to reward people who are coughing up more money up front, and as well you should. But it's worth addressing that. Or it's worth mentioning it in regards to how it feels, kind of thing on your side, where it's like, what the hell? Like I can't even. I think you can eventually unlock those armor sets, but it takes a lot longer. But yeah, overall, like this is the first step in Sony's live service plan. Like we got Foam Stars and we got Helldivers 2. I played some Foam Stars yesterday as well. That game ain't for me, but I'm also a Splatoon fan. I just see how much they've ripped off Splatoon.
It's nakedly cynical.
Yeah, and it's like there are little things in there, like in regards to if you shoot one spot for a while, you can build up different piles of foam, and it's like there's a bit more to it in terms of the way you knock players out as you surf into them. Like that feels good, whatever. But my overall point is that Helldivers 2 feels like a very solid foot forward. I'm curious how much, because it's doing really, really well. Like it's blown up on Steam, it was trending on the PlayStation Store.
That's the thing we've got to mention. The simultaneous PC PlayStation release, I think, has really stood this game in good favor. Yeah, because that's the momentum you build from having that extra audience and reach is way stronger than it would have been if it was just on PlayStation.
That's true. At the minute, it's a double-edged sword because the service stuff was a bit more shaky on the PC side. But hopefully that stuff gets shaken out or gets sorted for the weekend. But yeah, in terms of them putting these feet forward, I'm just curious how much this is indicative of what they're doing for the next few years, or whether because Jim Ryan's stepping back, because you've got all the stuff happening with Xbox and everything else, if these, you know, they wanted to have 6 games online by next year or something, and so we've still got Concord to come. There's still Bungie's next game.
Marathon, yeah.
Marathon. And it's like Helldivers is a very strong foot forward. It feels at the minute like a first foot, and I think it'll get added to. And I'm curious how much it gets supported. I feel like we haven't even heard from Arrowhead in almost a decade. Like Helldivers 1 was 2015, and they haven't had anything since then. And so this is a great step forward, though. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing how the game innovates. I want to have more melee weapon options, I think, because at the minute you just punch people. I would like to see them innovate in that area. I want to see some vehicles maybe be added. And I'm just, it's one of those, I'm looking forward to being a part of that kind of journey.
Yeah.
It feels organic to what they have built here. It just feels digestible. It knows what it is, and everything in there feels punchy and fun. And I cannot emphasize just how much fun I had. Yes, like just that was, I mean, like it was just so much fun playing with you and Mikey, of just getting up to all sorts of nonsense and being chased by giant things and being melted in half, and then making a last ditch escape attempt. And yeah, no,
like
just
calling
really, really
down the fact that you can sort of attack enemies with the ordnance drops that you're bringing in, the fact that you can make those ordnance drops ostensibly like nuclear missile flurries or napalm flurries or whatever, that gets so immediately cinematic, and they intentionally or otherwise connote, all, to me at least, all those 80s and 90s action movies,
and all those deliberate,
you know, big set piece moments, that it's like that's its greatest strength alongside the music and everything else. But yeah, pleasantly surprised.
Also, capes go swish.
Capes go big swish.
Yeah.